Chafalef Amad Aleph, and it's about a third of the way down. Tan Rabbanan. Eila Dvarim she'avel asur bohen. Okay, the following things an avel is asur, and this is a list of different items that an avel is not permitted to do. Okay, and many of them are halacha. Well, they're all halacha, of course. Asur b'mlacha. An avel cannot go to work, and that's really true. He can, if he has a business, he can't go to the business. If he can't go to work. It may sound axiomatic in an age where workers get bereavement leave, right? But in antiquity, where Shabbos was not a day off, right? People worked 7 days a week. To say a novel as Asur b'mlacha was somewhat radical. And quite honestly, there are cases where it's difficult for people to take off, and it's a hardship, right? A person has their own business. Oh, it's not going?
No, it's not.
Okay. And so one is Asur b'mlacha. Second is uberachitza. Okay, can't wash his body, especially in warm water. Ubesicha, sicha is anointing. That's deodorant. Utash mishamita, marital relations. Ubenilas, a sandal, and wearing shoes like leather shoes. These are all items that we can identify with because we understand them, of course, from Tisha B'Av. But everyone becomes novel on Tisha B'Av, so these are the same types of prohibitions. And v'asur l'krot b'Torah u'b'nevim u'b'ksuvim, and he can't study Torah and Nevim and Ksuvim. He can't study basic Torah, in other words, Tanakh. Well, l'shanot means to learn, to study, right? Torah you read, Mishnah you study from Vishinantam. And that's because Mishnah and all the others were oral. They were not in reading format usually. Even if they were written down, most people probably maintained them in an oral format. So even when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi organized the Mishnayos, most people probably did not have them and still maintained it in oral format. In fact, we have all throughout the Gemara where it says Tana Kamed Rav so and so, and the Tana were these walking encyclopedias. They had no reference books. They couldn't pull out a Gemara or a Mishnayos or a set of brises like we have, like a Sefta. They would call these people up, and they had these encyclopedic memories, and they would rattle off what was the text. The texts were kept in an oral format. Hard for us to appreciate and understand how it could be until you realize how much dust fills your head. And if you could empty that out and do brain wipe, you could have a lot of place to put all kinds of Mishnayos and Brises. It's really true. Right?
Full of useless stuff.
Yeah, it's full of phone numbers and contact numbers and email. No matter what you do.
No, we don't keep those anymore either. They're all
correct, because you fill it up with other things. I'm saying, but if you think about it, if that's what you studied and read, you could remember it. Okay. So this is about studying Mishnah, and Medrash refers to Medrashe Halacha. Doesn't mean drasha like a homiletic drasha, but there are many drashos that we have. Let me try to think of an example. The whole Haggadah. Well, Haggadah is really a Haggadic Medrash, but if you can think of of certain laws that we learn out, and they're based upon learning from psukim. That's what a format of halachic medrash is. We have today the Mechilta, we have Sifra, Sifrei, so we have a number of halachic medrashim. They're actually as early as the Mishnayos. We're called Medrashe Halacha, are contemporary to the Mishnayos and Brises, and this is what this means. So Mishnah would simply be probably a listing of just like laws. Medrash means how they're derived. Uba halachos, halacha is going to refer to really, I think Rashi says Brises. What does Rashi say for halachas here? Or is it Rashi in another place? No, Rashi doesn't say it here. Rashi doesn't say it here. But halachas means Brises. These are the explanations of what is found in the Mishnayos. And Shas is going to be the Talmudic discussions about what's found in the Brises and the Mishnayos. About Agadas are going to be the stories and Agadic material. So all of this is the entire gamut of what we would call studying Torah, Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebechsav and Torah Shebal Peh, correct. And that's actually halacha. The novel cannot study that. He can study stuff about Avelos because that's stuff he needs to know. and the reason is because this will make him happy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And because and even though the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah says an Ovel is chayav in all kol mitzvos hamuras b'Torah except for tefillin, so you would think that he would be chayav in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, right? But nonetheless, this is a special exclusion because of the concept of simcha. Of course, once again, he could learn sad things. He's not excluded from the Torah. He's excluded from Torah that will make him happy, and that's pretty much most of the Torah. And but if people needed him, he was needed because he's a specialty. He's a rabbi, he's a posek, and people needed him to, even though he was an avel, so then that would be a way for him, that would be permissible for him to learn on that. So, for example, there's a discussion about even a Rabbi, a Melamed for children, right? The Talmud Melamed. The Talmud Melamed was sitting Shiva, so it might be permissible for him to go back to teach, because if he didn't teach, they didn't have a concept called substitutes back in the day. It meant the kids would be without study for 7 days, and that's the mitzvah of Torah for these kids. So so the Taz says, well, he should actually wait maybe first 3 days he shouldn't go back to teach. And there are opinions mentioned halacha that even the first day he can go back to teach. So that's an example of Rabbi Tzrichim Lo. It's not for one kid; it's got the whole schoolhouse is waiting for him. Another example is, for example, the rabbi gives a drasha on Shabbos Hagadol. Okay, so even if it's in the middle of Shiva, he could give the Shabbos Hagadol drasha, right?
It was only twice a year, so they figured, hey.
Well, that's a clear case of Rabbi Tzrichim Lo, right? And especially if there's nobody else. If there are the Talmidei Chachamim in the shul, so it's not Rabbi Tzrichim Lo. Anyone else can give a maybe not as good, maybe not as entertaining, but it's not. And the Shabbos Hagadol drasha, by the way, back in the day was not simply the rabbi showing prowess how to explain and darshan things. It was giving halachas. Many of the Shabbos Hagadol drashas were not drash, but really telling people what to do. So people came, and that was important. That's why you have it the Shabbos before Pesach, especially, and you had it before Yom Kippur, Shabbos Shuvah, the rabbi giving reproof how to do tshuva. So, and these were, if you go to Middle Ages, the only 2 times the rabbi got up to speak. Okay, can you imagine that? Okay.
So what do you do the rest of the year? I'm not going to ask.
Paskin halacha, they brought him all the chickens.
Exactly. That's true.
Chickens, hachilchas nida.
Favorite chickens, chickens.
So this, the Imhoyu Rabin Surishima, that only applies to Talmud Torah, or
that applies to Talmud Torah?
Because you've got the fellow's not allowed to do his work. Let's say it's the only doctor in town.
Rashi says ladrasha. Right? I think it's really, what I saw, it really is referring to the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Look, if it's a doctor in town, it's pikuach nefesh.
Okay, take it. It's the only lawyer in town.
So you push off the case.
No, but if somebody has something broken that they need really to eat or whatever, I'm saying, they wouldn't die, but
right.
No, but I think what you say, and probably Rashi, because the examples they just gave in the previous 2 lines all had to do with Talmud Torah, right? So that sounds like it's tied in with that.
It's clear. I mean,
when you first read it, it sounds like if this person is necessary for everybody, then he could do it, right?
You've got a listing of all the things that the oval is not allowed to do, and the list finishes.
No, then it says Aser from Malacha Rechitza Sicha Tashmishin Nil. It's on the period, and then the Aser Likwas Batana V'Mayram Tzrichen Lo Ein Nimna.
Right. That second usher, all has to do is...
All right, so there's one usher of things that he does, and one usher about learning.
Yeah.
I said the unusual...
Here,
right.
The Mohoya Rabin Sarifimo only applies
to the second, correct. Torah, and the unusual part about Torah is really the Avel is Chayv and all mitzvahs. So one should postulate he should study. Right? He should study and cry, right? It's like, how can you do the mitzvah of Yehavta as Hashem Elokecha? How can God force you to love Him? Love is an emotion. You can't force love, right? So the answer is it should be so inherent that you want to love Hashem. or maybe V'yohavto, as I think the Rambam says, V'yohavto is simply remembering Hashem, thinking about Hashem. That's loving Hashem. But here this is because it engenders simcha, so that becomes a separate exclusion, different than everything else. It's very different than all the amlachas that are about doing work and taking your mind off avelis. By the way, in terms of doing work, once again, it's a significant. A person has their own business. I remember hearing about an Avel who was a medical professional. I'm trying to think what he did. He may have actually sold his practice for the week or something. No, he's not just hiring in an associate to come in. It's still his business. He's still getting the profits.
How about the only butcher in town?
So maybe there's an exception.
That's
I
what
don't
I
know.
say. There might be some things that you need.
Also b'malacha.
Yes. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. The other in the discussion is what if an Avel is the only Kohen in town, right? And let's postulate that we're in Eretz Yisrael with a duchen every day. Okay. Right. So the answer is he does not override it. He stays home. Okay. And let's.
You don't have to duchen.
Why? So the answer is you don't have to duchen. If there's no Kohen, if there's no Kohen, there's no mitzvah to duchen.
So the Torah says
he doesn't have to go there.
Your people.
Right. True. But it's actually the chiyuv is only if you call the Kohen up. If you say Kohanim, then your Kohen must go up. You don't say Kohanim, the Kohen actually does not have to go up. Yes, it's a mitzvah, but the life will go on. For that matter, don't say, well, he's the only Kohen, he's got to come to shul get an aliyah. Right? He's got to get Kohen. So you only give the Kohen aliyah for Kohen because out of kavod.
Are you talking about the oinen period?
The Avelus. He stays home.
The 7 days?
Yeah, the Kohen does not. He does not get the aliyah of Kohen. Even in a shiva house, he doesn't get the aliyah of Kohen. I don't think.
But the custom is to go to shul. If you don't have a minyan in your home, you go to the shul.
Correct. So he would go out. He'd walk out of the shul if he was the only Kohen.
He would walk out.
He wouldn't get the aliyah. He would not get the aliyah. Right. And the aliyah that you get is a mitzvah of kriyas Torah barabim.
But duchen isn't putting Torah in.
So duchening is he's saying over psukim from the Torah. That's what duchening is. The three things. Baruch Hashem, these are three psukim in the Torah.
But he's also blessing the people.
Yes, he is. He's blessing the people by invoking these psukim from the Torah. You know what? If you look, for example, on Tisha B'Av, the same halacha, you can't study Torah until Chatzos, right? Except for Tisha B'Av and Eicha and so forth and so on. If you look in the Kinnis books, the Sidurim that are printed, the Kinnis books that are printed for Tisha B'Av, the Art Scroll, and also the Rosenfeld, the old one that comes from England, you'll see that when it comes to Mincha, there's all kinds of things in Korbanos they put in. Well, how come we didn't say them in the morning? Because the answer is really you're studying Torah. The parts that are tefillah, you have to daven. Yeah, davening is davening, but if it's strictly a Torah issue, so that all waits till the afternoon. Those are the insertions, main insertions. Sometimes people don't say them. We come late. We come running in from mincha, but they're there because you didn't say it. Maybe you don't say them every morning either because you skip those parts of.
What do you say in the morning? You say it for mincha also.
But you're not supposed to say it in the morning. You're supposed to put it off. I'm saying you need to have the kinnis to see which ones you're supposed to push off. Because it's not that clear what's kriyas Torah and what's not kriyas Torah. But we're basically saying over a lot of the karbanos as a form of learning about the karbanos because we can't bring them. So the fact that I can't bring them doesn't simply mean that I can learn about them if I can't learn. Okay, so that's just give you a similarity where many of the halachas of Tisha B'Av are based comparable to halachas of Avelis. It's the same thing. The Avel, and I said last time, I'll just say it again, I'll go on, that an Avel is really not learning when they're learning Mishnais between Mincha Marv and the house of a Shiva. Right? He's excluded. Unless the rabbi is doing like Pirkei Avos or doing something that's real heavy Musar. The Musar is always good for everybody. But when they learn Mishnais, even if they're learning the Mishnais with the names, like they try to learn Mishnah with the initials, sometimes of the Niftar, that's Mishnah, it's learning Mishnais. So he's there, and the funny thing is he says a Kaddish Rabbanan, which is kind of unusual because he said after learning. Okay. Anyway, so these are the two groupings here, and I said this becomes very much halacha l'maisa about that an Avel cannot work, an Avel can do all these things, and he can also study Torah. The halacha Right. By the way, in this listing, it does not list Kfiyat Hamita and Atifas Arosh, correct? Right? And we always pointed out that we don't do that anymore, but I guess this is not a complete...
Well, these are more things that it couldn't do. It's
right, correct, right. So I guess those are things you would do. Correct. I don't remember if we had this yet, or we're going to have it. An Ani can actually work in his house, Bitsina, if he's misparnes from Staka after 3 days, and correct.
We had that on Kol Moed, I thought,
right.
but then not so much in Oda, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Correct. But I think it might be coming up later on.
Remember the software.
Okay. By the way, there's one halacha that a lot of people are not careful about, and it's a very hard halacha to explain, and that is, you see that simcha is prohibited for an avel. So an avel is not really supposed to take a little kid and put the kid on his lap. Okay, right? And if you go to you go to a shiva house and you see the Yidel come along, they'll remind people of that. And the reason is, it's because that by definition makes people happy. So it's an additional form of simcha. Have you ever seen a person take a child on the lap and be sad? Maybe if the kid wets his pants, okay, but I'm saying, but normally no.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Because I remember it happened to me in the shiva house.
Yeah.
Someone brought a kid in, and I realized afterwards, and I fell into the trap.
Well,
yeah, I'm just saying. I'm saying that on tape too. So it happened to me. So
there you go. Okay. Okay, now. So now here's some stories come up. Maisa umeis benosh Rabbi Yossi B'tzipori. So the son of Rabbi Yossi dies. V'nichnas lebeis hamedrash v'darash kol hayom kulo. And she came to the base medrash, and he taught people.
Sounds like the same day even. Practically.
Well, at least surely during Shiva, correct?
Yeah.
So maybe time is coalesced here, but it surely means that it was during a period of Shiva, and he didn't miss a day, and you see therefore that this proves Rabbi Tzrichim Lo, he can come. It's not about learning. Dorash, he had to teach publicly. Rabbi Bar Chana, okay. Rabbi Bar Chana, who was very famous, Isra Be Milsa means literally something happened to him. It's a euphemism for saying he suffered a loss.
So this is now somebody else.
Isra Be Milsa, right? Someone died. Some relative died for Rabbi Bar Chana. Something happened to him. That means someone died. So Savard Lola Mefik Pirka. So he thought not to go study, not to go teach not to go out and give the parak, the shir. Okay? So they said to him, Amalei Rabbi Chanin, Rabbi Tzrichim Lo, Einon Nimna. So they said, so Rabbi Chanin said to them, no, you're the big Talmud Chacham, Rabbi Bachana, and if people need you, you should go out and teach a shir. Right?
That means hold back.
You shouldn't hold back. You shouldn't be monea. Right? You shouldn't be right. Einonimna, because we had it before. Imhoy Rabbi Tzrichim Lo. What was our term? Einonimna. It's the same term. So that's Rabbi Chanina responding to Rabbi Bar Bachana. Now wait, the story's not finished yet. Savaluk me amora lei. He decided he wanted to put up. Here's what an amora was. There are technical terms in the Talmud. The technical term for Tana, I told you, is about the person they used to look up in the encyclopedic memory. The photographic memory was called a Tana. Not to be confused with the Tanoim of the Mishnayos. But Tana was Aramaic for learned, right? He studied. So he was the resource person. They would say, okay, Mr. Tana, tell us what was the third Mishnah Maseches Brachos? Okay? Right. Those are the kinds of things. You hear about people photographic memory, these were the people called Tanaim. An Amora, not to be confused with Amoraim, who are the rabbis of the Gemara. He also lives in the Gemara era. Was the person who was the loudspeaker for the person giving the shir. The rabbi or the Rosh Yeshiva taught the shir, but he's got to now get that voice out to the entire base medrash. So he had someone next to him who was learned, but not a big scholar, who could simply had a big hefty voice, and he would shout out the shir.
It's almost like the old Meturgaman, except he didn't have to translate.
So the Meturgaman was there to translate. This was actually the...
He says Turgaman.
Oh, is that what he said?
Yeah, but
it's the same kind of job, except you don't have to translate again.
So the Meturgaman is saying over but translating. This person is really saying over the shir to many people. But here's the key: you have to know what you're saying.
Of course.
Right?
You have to understand it.
Remember that case where the guy was doing sign language? Whose funeral was that?
Oh yeah, that was a joke.
Mandela, right? And then you just got up there and you gotta know what you're doing, okay? And part of the problem was the people standing there, let them do it. They didn't know sign language. So the reality was to be an Amora actually was considered a tremendous kavod, okay? And therefore you find that as Gemara somewhere says that a person's Namora, once you put him up, he's got the job for 50 years. Okay?
There was no Amora in the time of the Tanoim, like you just...
The real Tanoim.
So the real Tanoim, we don't have reference to. We only have short Mishnayos. We don't have Brises, don't really refer to it. There's a lot more discussion about this in the time of the Amoraim. All I'm saying, the reason he's called Amora is because he was Omer. The Tana was called the Tana. The Walking Encyclopedia Tana was called Tana because Tana comes from learning, Shana, Shinantam, right? The Amora was called because he was the speaker. He was the...
Spoke it over.
But he had to be faithful to what was said.
Of course, you have to understand.
Right?
Yeah,
This is like the people who do consecutive translation, right? Or the people on television who do that, the closed captions. And you see when they do closed captions, sometimes they kind of mess up on the words. Because they're hearing it, it's not pre-done. They're hearing it and they're doing it on the fly. So that's fairly important.
Were these paid people?
Oh, big bucks.
I don't know, probably paid people. These were all people who made society work. But whatever, all I'm saying is that all I'm saying is having an Amora gave a certain degree of chashivus. And therefore...
The rabbi.
Yeah, you had to be important enough to have a guy who could go around.
Translate to like a loudspeaker. Yeah.
Right. And it also gave chashivas as well to the person saying it over, which would enhance what this Rosh Hashiva was doing while he was in Shiva. Okay. So just giving you the idea that being this Turgman or Amora was a position of significance, of svara, of leadership.
Right.
And it's one thing to say, therefore, that you can give over your share. But it's another thing to say we're going to pull out all the stops, right? All bells and whistles, that you'll have your standard presentation, and it's going to look like you're not sitting Shiva. Something has to be different. So you have to lower down the level of
Your work.
in your work, even if we're going to let you teach, because there's an overriding concern that Torah should go on publicly, something's got to be done. So therefore, Rabbi Baruch didn't want to give the shir. Rabbi Chanina says to him, "Oh, Rabbi Tzrichim Lot's okay." And then he says, "Okay, bring out the Amora, bring out my standard, loudspeaker, set up the system." So Amalei Rav. So Rav responded, said, "Tanya, we learned a brisa uvavad shlo yamid turguman." Okay, you shouldn't set up the turguman. That's why the turguman and the Amora are the same thing, or used interchangeably.
Right.
So the Gemara once again.
What do you mean you shouldn't set up a turguman?
You shouldn't set this guy up to be the loudspeaker. So we have to see what he do.
So he was the guy that...
The Rav is sitting Shiva.
Amora and Turguman are being used interchangeably. He was the guy stood on the right side, who every time the rabbi said something, he repeated it verbatim to the people.
He could do that. Or he couldn't do that either.
He couldn't do that.
He couldn't do that.
Well, you couldn't do it directly. You'll see what he's going to do.
But the person who's sitting Shiva again is the rabbi, not the Turban.
Correct. The person saying shiva is the rabbi, so he can get up and give the shir. But you can't make this such a fancy shir that you got to have the Turgman Amora get up. Correct. And as I said, it looks like it's fairly significant because Maseches Chagiga. Hopefully we'll get to Maseches Chagiga when we get to Chagiga. It says Ein Mamida Meturgman Al Tzibur Pachas Mechamishim Shana. There are two interpretations, by the way. It means either you can't appoint him for less than 50-year term, or, which sounds like a long time. The other interpretation is you can't appoint a Meturgman or an Amora to be who is less than 50 years old.
That's a possibility.
Okay, so in other words, he has to already... it means you have to have a lifetime of experience of learning to be able to stand up like this. Okay. Whatever it is, there's a certain amount of pomp and significance and so forth. So therefore, you can't have your Meturgman. So the Gemara says, Elahecha Avid. So what is he going to do? What are we going to say? Al-Kihad Tanya, we had a similar kind of situation with Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai is a Tana. So the Amoraim now are referring to a case that happened with Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, who was a student of Rabbi Akiva. He came into the Beis Medrash. V'nichnas Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya Okay, Rav Chanan ben Akavi Omer, this is the same guy you find the end of the Rav Chanan ben Akavi, the rest of the Kodesh Baruch, that's the guy. Okay, also a Tana. V'yoshav b'tzido, so Rav Yehuda bar Eloi is an Avel, right? Nebuchad's son passed away. So Rav Chananya ben Akavia sits next to him, and he whispers to Rav Chananya ben Akavia what he's going to say. Rav Chananya ben Akavia has spoke to the Maturguan. So they put someone in the middle to kind of remove this one step. So there's a halachic fiction going on here, or there's, if you will, trying to get around the law to say, well, the guy's giving the shear. Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi has to give the shear. And they can't hear him. So what are we going to do? So he'll say it over quietly. That's already not so much befarheses like Bitsina. And the guy sitting next to him, he will say it over to the Maturgman. B'kachava. The Turgman is Shmiel Rabim. Okay. And that is what would be done in this rare situation. So it's a shinoi that's done that people should recognize that the person is sitting shiva. Right? Bisman hazeh, this doesn't happen. Right? We don't have the office of Maturgman. We have loudspeakers, right? Or we have recordings, or we have acoustical halls. And basically, it's very rare to hear if a person is going to get up to go to a big hall to give a shir while the nebuch sitting shiva, right? You just don't hear that today. Okay, now we're going to come to tefillin. Okay, we're going to come to tefillin. Tefillin is an exception to the rule. And the fact that tefillin is permissible, but not permissible on halachically the first day, and we're going to come up and discuss it right now.
When you say first day, you mean the after burial?
So let's see how they define the first day, because it's 2 days, it's 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day.
It wasn't one of the Asurs, but still, I guess they have a special thing about it.
So you're right. It's not one of the Asurs here. It's one of those that is mentioned in Masechet Sukkah, Daf Chav Hey and Aleph, which says Avel Chayev B'chol Mitzvos HaTorah Chutz Min Tefillin. Okay, so then it does not have Talmud Torah there, right? Then the Talmud Torah is an exception because of Simcha, and Tefillin is an exception because it's considered pe'er, a thing of beauty, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu says that you're wearing the thing of beauty, which means you're going to wear it when you're an Avel and others will not. Why is it only 1 day? Well, without getting into the specifics here, it's 1 day because Avelis Min HaTorah is only 1 day. Okay, we've had this discussion before, and therefore the mitzvah of tefillin. But we'll see there are other opinions if it's more than 1 day, and that's what the Gemara is going to present.
Where did we remind me where we decided that the Torah said 1 day? We didn't actually.
We never saw it.
We never got it. Okay,
Rabbi, the fact is, it's 30 days. I mean, when you look at when Moshe and Aaron died,
right?
That's what 30 days.
Yeah.
So, but the halachic strictures that relate to it are only 1 day. Or the halacha of Shiva was the halacha of Shiva. Right, 30 days comes up, but that's not Shiva. There's mourning patterns of Shloshim, but the halacha of Shiva is really a halacha of 1 day, Min HaTorah. And
but you can't go to work and all those things.
Right. Well,
we just learned, right? The part we just learned.
No, the part that we just learned, 7 days.
7 days, right?
Correct. But Min HaTorah, the Torah level is only okay.
All these things from the Torah would only be 1 day.
Okay. Now, why don't we do this, because it's going to come really out of this Gemara itself. Tan Rabbanan, second long line. Avel Gimel Yomim Harishanim Asal Nech Tefillin. So the first opinion is that an Avel can't wear tefillin for how long? 3 days. Right, which means, what should that mean to you? When should he wear tefillin? The 4th day. However, the next line says, Mishlishi va'elech u'shlishi b'chlal mutal anech tefillin. However, from the 3rd day on, including the 3rd day, he can wear tefillin. So when it says 3 days, how many days is really also to wear tefillin? 2. So why does it say 3 days? Right? It sounds like a convoluted. So some of the Rishonim, the Machlokes Rishonim, what it means. Does it mean that you have to wait till after sunrise to wear tefillin? For example, when can you wear tefillin? When can you wear tefillin? Mishiakir, right? You can wear tefillin Mishiakir, which is before sunrise. Which is, in this town, we say Mishiakir is an hour before sunrise, usually. Some places say it's only 40 minutes. But it surely is a reasonable amount of time before actual sunrise. That's not really the day. we kind of stretch the day into Mishiyakir, which is after Alos HaShachar. So some Rishonim say when it says the third day is included, it means you have to wait till after sunrise on the third day to put tefillin on. Okay. Others say no, it's just the way the Gemara, the way they structured it. The 3 days really means 2 days, and even on the third day, beginning at Mishiach, you can still wear tefillin. But the first one sounds more logical. Why you say 3 days is Asr, and so forth. Okay. Okay, and which really means that if the third day you can put on tefillin, then it looks like then it's also for how many days is really the real prohibition? 2 days. Good. So we'll come to that in another moment. The Mishlishi ve'elav kshish b'chal mutar l'neach tefillin v'mbal panim chadashos eino choletz. Now this is a very unusual halacha. Panim chadashos is normally a term that is used when you're having a sheva brachas, and you have someone, in order to say sheva brachas during the week of sheva brachas, you need to have someone who is not at the wedding.
Someone new.
Why?
So, because someone has to feel that there's a simcha the simcha b'ma'ono, and all the brachas are being celebrated anew. So, with the exception of Shabbos, that you don't need a panim chadashos, you always need to have someone who has not yet celebrated the sheva brachas during that week. Right, and the Sheva brachas you had last week, you had in a
Make
couple.
sure you don't invite everybody in.
But why?
Why? Because otherwise it's an old celebration. It's not just like old hat.
Oh, so you need someone for a new
Because the
person.
people who are at the wedding, they're ready.
They ready out say they did it. Correct.
Okay, if I was there.
If
You know, at the wedding, you're just
Well, okay, if you
Oh, the
chuppah, not
for the benching.
they say the chuppah. They also say it later in the meal. But you were there. You said it. You heard it. You were there. You celebrated. So for you, it's simply for you. You're coming back for a second. It's old hat.
Okay, that's what you need.
So that's what Panim Chadashos usually comes up. Panim Chadashos here refers to someone new coming to the Shiva house who had not been there yet. Okay, now this is a halacha that does not apply la halacha l'maisa, so don't look like to me funny like where does this come from, because it's not makes no difference. But according to this, in other words, no, for the first 2 days. No, the third day is the first day that he's putting on tefillin.
Right.
Okay, and if a person comes that the first time they're coming is the third day.
Right.
Now, they may not know how long the person's been sitting shiva. It's just the first, second, third day.
That's right.
So the opinion is that even if a person comes who has not been to the shiva house, the avel does not take off his tefillin. Okay, the person shouldn't think the guy put on tefillin the first day of shiva. So early on in shiva, there was a concern maybe this could be a misinterpretation. Okay, and therefore maybe and you'll see in a moment the second opinion argues on this. But maybe a person comes, let's say, the third day, and the Avel is wearing tefillin. What could he think? He could think maybe it's the second day, the first day. And can you imagine that the Avel is wearing tefillin on the first and second day, so he can wear tefillin from the beginning of, right, Shiv and so forth.
This is telling him that you don't have to take them off, notwithstanding what the guy.
Notwithstanding the fact that there's a Panim Chadashos who has come here.
Notwithstanding
Right.
that person might think you're going to have to take
Correct.
them off.
Right.
So why doesn't he take them off?
He doesn't, because he's wearing them.
Because he should be wearing them.
Right, but what you could have thought that the person who's now coming the first day to the Shiva house will think that this guy not only put tefillin on the third day, that the Avel put on tefillin on the second day and on the first day, and therefore he will think either wrong about the Avel or make a mistake for himself and pass along a wrong opinion. This is I said where this comes from. So, but the bottom line is, the Avel has already had 2 days of Shiva,
Sure.
right?
Right.
And now on the third day he puts on tefillin, and according to this opinion, if someone new, by the way, it's axiomatic that new people come to the minyan every day to share the novel today, right? So you know you've never seen this. You've never seen
In
this.
this day and age, very few people who come to a Shiva don't know when the Shiva started.
That's also true.
If you get an email, you get
Right.
it's on the,
Right.
it's on
You
the,
always know when
Right.
it's
on the website.
like, oh, that's a Shiva.
Correct. Well, you know what? Whatever it was. So there were always concerns. That sometimes it's hard for us to understand why Chazal made certain gzeros or takonos that people could be misguided or make certain mistakes. Okay. Okay. Kitnius. Okay. Kitnius. Who is going to make a mistake about kitnius today and about chometz? Okay. Let's be honest. Anyone? Right. corn oil.
Well, there are those who argue that maybe it's time we got.
That's correct. I'm saying, but you can go through a number of gezeros and takanos that you would. Okay. Bottom line is
Quinoa, God, that's.
But the Havamina is because the next opinion says the Havamina is correct.
When you said quinoa.
The Havamina, the guy shouldn't wear tefillin less.
No, he should take it off. He doesn't. He doesn't wear tefillin. Take it off. Now you have to remember the wearing tefillin. Here, this is important. Wearing tefillin wasn't like us. We put it on for 20 minutes. We go through Shmoneh Esrei, Aleinu, take it off. You wore tefillin. People wore tefillin all the time.
It's hard to believe.
Why is it hard to believe?
It's hard to believe the average person who has to go to work.
No, it's actually not hard to. What's hard to believe is how different Judaism was with Tuma, Tahara, and Kachim, and everything else. It was a very, and so if you can understand how careful people were for Tuma and Tahara, and for Kachim, and for everything else.
The average person would wear it all day, like the working guy.
But not working, when you're not working, but the guy's not working, he's home.
Jerusalem, the guys will wear it all day. You walk through Jerusalem, you'll see the guys are walking around.
They're not doing anything.
Those are guys going to daven late. Those are the guys going to daven at 10 o'clock.
They're going to daven late, but they want to camouflage it. They go for the 10 o'clock meeting, but they camouflage. No, but not a working person, but a guy who was learning would wear it. But a working guy who was working in a stable or working in construction.
Correct. Of course, he took it off. Correct. But I'm saying, but here's, if you're home and he's there, so where's this guy going? He's got nowhere to go. So it doesn't mean that he takes it. He doesn't mean he takes it off and puts it away. While the guy is there, he takes it off. That's not such an unusual halacha if you think for a moment. You got the rest of the,
I can see.
Yeah, but you got the rest of the day to put it. You got nowhere to go.
You say he takes it off and puts it back on again when the guy leaves?
Yeah, that's what it means. It means while he's there, he takes off the tefillin.
But it says he doesn't have to.
So he doesn't have to. So let's come to the second opinion that he does have to.
You'd say the mitzvah tefillin. When you put on the tefillin, and is that it? You put on the tefillin, make the bracha, and you take them off. You'd say tefillin?
Yes. Like Lubavitch does when they catch people on the street and they put on.
They make you recite the Shema, the first paragraph.
So I guess you should walk Dalet Amos, walk 4 Amos. So they get you to say the mitzvah Shema that you understand what tefillin is. Because otherwise, because the idea of wearing tefillin has a tremendous amount of kedusha. That's the other part we don't know. People wear tefillin, and it's like they don't know they're wearing tefillin. Nothing's happened.
So that's a danger of wearing tefillin.
That's correct. That's exactly why we take off tefillin right away, because we're balancing the kedusha of tefillin with the fact that we kind of just can't maintain this concept of concentration. I mean, look, let's be honest. Let's think about it. And here, I'm speaking to myself. Look, if you're wearing tefillin, this holy object, and you're pulling out your cell phone and you're checking your texts and messages, what does it really mean? You forgot about the tefillin.
Could be doing worse than that too.
You can be doing worse than that, but you're not supposed to do that. There you go.
No, exactly.
Okay, I'm not going to say something.
Good. But I'm saying that's why we don't wear tefillin after davening. That's why we take it off.
So so they actually were able to keep that concentration all day? Tefillin all day?
I guess so. How could they do that? They had empty. They didn't have all the junk in their head that we have.
No, but an average person is going to have whatever he's going to do all day.
Yeah, they had work, they had wives, they had all kinds of things. Yeah. I'm sure the average person wasn't in that position. Maybe.
It used to be. It used to be not that you can remember, that people kept their tefillin on when they went from davening to a bris. The bris took place right away afterwards.
Yeah, you used to do that. I don't do that.
You used to do it. See, people don't do it anymore. And you do it. Okay, most people don't do it.
We used to do it, but I don't do it because
I tell you, I have this shite. If I can digress a little bit, I had the bris of my first grandson.
Okay, no, you were a Baal bris. People of Baal bris keep the tefillin on. I'm talking about the 150 guests. No. The people, the Sandik and the this one and the Kvater, and they should keep that. Surely keep that tefillin on. And they do keep that tefillin on in many cases.
So the bris was on Rosh Chodesh.
Yeah.
So my question was,
you took it off.
I put them back on
again. That's a good question.
Right.
That's an excellent question. And the answer is?
I'll tell you something very funny. There were 2 brisim in the yeshiva that day. One was my grandson, another guy. So my son said, don't put them back on. And the other kid told his
should put them on.
Put them back
on. Once you take them off, or you refuse to put them back on.
Well, I'm saying, but most people, think about it for a moment, you're in shul. What should you be doing in shul besides thinking about the shul? You're just finishing davening, so you got to wait 5 minutes for the kid to show up. Why are people thinking that tefillin off? Because tefillin is like so holy, we just so accustomed to doing that. I'm just giving you the example. So it's not uncommon that a person would wear tefillin longer back in those days than they did today. So the first opinion is coming back here is that you wear tefillin on the third day.
Right.
And if someone new comes who hasn't been to the Shiva house yet, while the Aval is wearing tefillin, he takes them off. As if to say, he says to the guy, wait outside until I take my tefillin off, okay? And then, because otherwise, if the guy sees wearing tefillin, taking off tefillin, then the whole charade is taken away. That's the first opinion. I'm sorry, Eino Cholet. I'm confused. The next opinion is yes Cholet. So this guy doesn't take his tefillin off.
That's Rabbi.
Divrei Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Shomer, Avel Beis Yomim Rishonim Asal Nech Tefillin. So Rabbi Shua says 2 days, but it's not 2 days, because we know the 3 days is 2 days, so 2 days is going to be what? 1 day. Misheni V'sheni B'chlal Mutal Nech Tefillin. So on the second day, and then, which means even on the second day you can put on tefillin, which means it's not 1 day you don't wear tefillin. Right. That, by the way, is our halacha. That the first day you don't wear tefillin, and I told you this normally does not noticeable to people, because normally the first days you're coming back in the afternoon or the morning after the feld, after Shachris is over, and you wouldn't think of it, the person's not putting on tefillin for mincha, because no one puts on tefillin for mincha, and when it was Shachris he was known, but it does come up if the kfura is at night, and the next morning is the Shachris, okay? The imbal panim chadashos, and if a new person comes, this is the second day choletz. Okay, so then this opinion of Rabbi Yeshua says he does take off tefillin on the second day. Okay, now what about the third day?
But he seems to certainly agree.
What do you think the third day would be?
First day he doesn't.
What would Rabbi Yeshua say for the third day? He'll let you guess. We'll leave it till the end. Okay. Right, but in other words, you would think then the second day you would take off the tefillin. By the third day, right, you ought to know what's going on. Maybe you don't take off the tefillin, right? And that was the first opinion, and that's one of the differences between the first opinion and the second opinion is how many days have passed, right? Which maybe by news has gotten out that you've already been sitting shiva for a couple of days. Okay, where does this come from? So where does it really come from about the prohibition of wearing tefillin and there's 1 day versus 2 days? So, Amar Rav Masna, my time with Rabbi Lazar. What's the reason, Rabbi Lazar, that the second day, 2 days you don't wear tefillin? D'chsiv vayitamu yimei b'chi evel Moshe. So he talks about, this is after when Moshe dies. And it looks like it's like a long period of time. So it says Vayitamu Yemei B'Chev Moshe. It doesn't say how many days in that pasuk, and how much is the minimum amount of days?
2, obviously.
2. So therefore, what the drush is Amar Rav Eina, which means therefore it's going to be a minimum of 2 days. So you see that the amount of time of Shiva is 2 days. Okay, Yemei B'Chev. You have to have Yemei. So what we're really trying to say, by the way, is the wearing of tefillin is prohibited at the time that you are on Avel Min HaTorah.
Which is 2 days.
Right, you may be Cheva Moshe. Right? Okay, I know you're going to say they must have...
We're going to say it's a little out of context only because they said for 30 days by Yitamu, right after the 30 days, that's by Yitamu.
Correct.
Right? So we know they ended after 30, not after 2, but you can see that, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So by the way, we're still
Again, by Yitamu, for sure, it's right after the 30 days. Must be the next pasuk I would get.
Right. Vayivku b'nei Yisrael Moshe b'arbos shloshim yom. That's the pasuk.
Right.
That's the beginning. The second half, Vayitmu Yimei B'chi Evel Moshe. The days of the mourning for Moshe finished. So simple pshat is 30 days. The end of 30 days it was over.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Right. That's pretty much what it looks like. Correct. However, that's about shloshim, and they want to make the Chazal didn't want to feel that shloshim equals Evel.
Right.
Right. There are different levels. Evel refers to avelus of a more intense period. How much was that intense period? So. In fact, it doesn't say that they mourned Moshe, it says they cried for Moshe. It says the period of crying is 30 days, period of mourning is a different period, so it's Yimei.
Right.
How much is Yimei? At least 2. Okay.
Just an aside, why don't we say that Moshe was different? He was the leader. He was the main. The 30-day relationship is different to Moshe than another Jew. Why do we pick that as
so that's going to be the Gemara's response. The Gemara will respond that for the opposition. The opposition is going to have another pasuk. It's going to say to the opposition, "What about this pasuk?" He's going to say, Moshe is different.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Moshe is twice as long as everybody else. Everybody else is 1 day. Moshe is Yemei B'chi.
Right.
Maybe 30 days is enough.
Maybe. Okay. Anyway, so the first. So at any rate,
They did more.
the key to this is right.
I know.
The key to this is that the Avel can wear tefillin while he is an Avel min Torah. That's what we're trying to equate. Which would be the drash of 2 days. Right. Even though the drash looks far-fetched, it's a drash. Now, the second opinion is, so that was Rabbi Lazar. Amar Rav Eina, my time with Rabbi Shua, even if you're sure, Rabbi Shua says 1 day. Dechsiv, v'acharisa kiyomar. Okay, the end will be the day of Mar, the day of bitterness.
Where's that?
It's from Amos Perek Chet. Okay? And how many days is Yom? 1. Okay. What's the topic of Amos there? Where's Amos? Tell him. Cheskel. Yes. Hosea. Amos Ches. All right.
Did they mourn for Miriam for 30 days?
I don't remember.
Altogether.
I don't remember. All right.
She didn't get there.
I think Amos is, by the way, the only. I think I have to check. Amos is the only place where it says Ish Yehudi besides Megillas Esther. I know it says it, but I think it's in Amos. Amos is the only other place where it says in. Right.
Strange. When we given how much before, Amos lived how much before Megillas Esther.
I was reading Megillas Esther.
Okay, so actually the pasuk in Amos is really about sadness and mourning. I'll read the English. It shall come to pass on the day, says God, Lord God, I will cause the sun to go down at noon. I will darken the earth on a clear day. Turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentations. I will bring up sackcloth upon all loins and baldness on every head. Obviously, pull their hair out. I'll make it as a mourning for an only son, and its end like a bitter day. V'samtia ke'evel yachid, v'yachrita kiyomar. Okay. So Amos is really talking about the fact that people have not followed up on following Hashem, and this is of course a very sad type of prophecy. And by the way, the next pasuk is right after Yachritzah Kiyomar. This you probably know better. Vayinei yomim boim num Hashem Elokim v'shlachti rav ba'aretz lo rav lalechem lo tzama lamayim ki im l'shmoa et divrei Hashem. I'm going to make a famine, not a famine for bread or water, but for hearing the words of Hashem. And people travel around, and no one will be able to find the words of Hashem. That's how lost people actually will be. Okay. Good. Right. Let's see where. I think Ish Yehudi is in Amos somewhere.
I can Google it.
Yeah. It's either Amos or Yirmiyahu.
You want me to look it up? Do you want to know?
No, I don't know it.
Do you want to know? I'll look
I know where it is. I saw it the other day. Okay.
I'll do a quick.
It's okay.
On the computer program, I can do a quick search.
It's okay. It's fine. All right. Anyways, so that pasuk in Amos. Now, the pasuk in Amos is a pasuk in Navi. So pasuk in Navi is always difficult to find in Makar min Torah, but that's the best they have. Okay.
This sounds like 1 day now.
So that's the marker for 1 day. Achrisa kiyomar, and therefore the Avel does not wear tefillin for 1 day, and on the second day he can already begin to put on tefillin.
But this Yom isn't it when somebody died, is it?
It's actually no. God says, "I'm going to turn your holidays into sad days, like the day of the mourning for your only son."
Your only son.
Oh.
Your only son. That's pretty sad. That's a real avelus.
Right.
Right. The Achrisa in the end will be a day of bitterness. No, the Navi is saying, "I'm going to turn things so bad for you because you turned away from Hashem. You're not looking for Dvar Hashem. Then it's going to be like Nebuch person sitting Shiva, very serious Shiva." And it's important, and Navi says, like a Yomar. It doesn't say like Yamim Rurim.
Right.
Days, 1 day. So it's actually a fairly good Dvash. So at any rate, this is the opinion of Rabbi Shua that says, therefore, one day you can't wear tefillin, the second day you do wear tefillin. If someone does come who hasn't seen you wearing tefillin, on the second day you take off the tefillin, okay, and you put them back on later. So now the Gemara wants to kind of reconcile each one why they don't use the drash. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shua nami hoksi vaytami yimei b'cheiv al Moshe. So the Rabbi Shua says you learn from Achrisah ki Omar one day. What about the pasuk that is used for Moshe for 2 days? You may. So his answer is Amalcho. You can see the Shani Moshe the Talmud Bavli. Moshe was a greater Avelis, and therefore everybody else is a single day. Moshe, Superman, is going to be 2 days, so you can't learn from Moshe. Okay. So Rabbi Lazar, now Rabbi Lazar learns it from Moshe for Yimei. Why does he learn it from Achrisah ki Omar? That seems like a much better proof. So Haksiv Achrisah ki Omar. So he says Ikam Rira Chad Yomahu. Okay. So in other words, you could say that the mar, the bitterness is 1 day, but the Avelis is more than 1 day. Right? It doesn't say, when I think maybe that's what Morty was trying to say, it doesn't say that you're mourning, right, for 1 day. No. It says like a mourning for your only son.
It'll be bitter.
But it'll be bitter, the bitterness of the day. The first day is a bitter day. Okay? You can't get around that. So therefore, it's not a clear proof that it's only 1 day for the Avelis. Maybe the Avelis is longer, and you'd have to have the pasuk about Moshe for 2 days. Okay. Amar Ula. So what do we do with halacha? So Amar Ula. Did I skip a line?
No.
Amar Ula.
No, you're right.
Amar Ula. Halacha krav Elazar b'chalitza, halacha krav Yeshua b'hanocha. Okay. So there were 2 halachas mentioned here. One was when you put on the tefillin, and one was you have to take the tefillin off. So it kind of gives it in backwards order. Ula says the halacha follows like Rabbi Eliezer, who says, what happens if someone comes on the day you take off the tefillin? What does he say? He said no. Say no.
Rabbi Yeshua.
Rabbi Eliezer said on the 3rd day you put on tefillin, and upon chadashos eina cholet, you keep it on. So notice halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer, that therefore you don't take off the tefillin. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it looks like, by the way, you could argue don't take off the tefillin on the 3rd day.
We thought probably about the new guy coming in. I think he's
correct. Okay. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua. And the halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua, that when do you stop putting on tefillin? On the 2nd day. And that is the halacha how we paskin. They just have one question. The Gemara has a final question here. Ibaylahu. B'sheni la'ula choletz o ena choletz. Okay? So the question is, let's go back to what this halacha, let me explain to you the halachic statement. Halachic statement, because they always like to split hairs. Halachic statement of Ula was that in terms of taking off tefillin, who do we follow? Follow Rabbi Eliezer, that you don't take off tefillin if someone new comes. Right? And the halacha is like Rabbi Shua, that when do you stop putting on tefillin? 2nd day. But when Ula says you don't take off tefillin, that's the question I asked you before. When Ula says you don't take off tefillin, when don't you take off the tefillin? Which day? Ula was talking about which day of the week did you stop putting on tefillin? Not Ula, Rabbi Eliezer. Which day of the week do you start putting on tefillin? The 3rd day. So Rabbi Eliezer opinion is on the 3rd day when he starts putting on tefillin, if someone new comes, you don't have to take off tefillin. We don't know about what Rabbi Eliezer, ostensibly, what would Rabbi Eliezer say about the 2nd day? Because according to Rabbi Eliezer, you didn't put on tefillin on the 2nd day.
Right.
So the Gemara's question is, when Ula says that that he's following Rabbi Yoshua, that you start putting on tefillin on the 2nd day, and he follows Rabbi Eliezer that you don't take off the tefillin, but that's the 3rd day. What happens on the 2nd day when you first put on tefillin? Because if you follow Rabbi Yoshua and you put on tefillin, so Rabbi Yoshua also says you take off tefillin. If you follow Rabbi Eliezer about not taking off tefillin, that only begins on the 3rd day. So that's the Gemara's hair-splitting question.
Exactly.
B'sheni, on the 2nd day, le'ula, choletz o ena choletz. According to Ula, who split the halacha between Rabbi Eliezer about taking off, not taking off, and Rabbi Yeshua about putting on, what would be on the 2nd day if someone new comes, Panim Chadashos comes? Because Rabbi Eliezer didn't seem to talk about it. So the Gemara gives you a black and white answer. Tashma, Amar Ula, choletz umaniach afilu mea pa'amim. So Ula says that you...
Right. You would have to take it out and put it on. If 5 new people came in, presumably.
Right, and Rashi says that this is referring to on the 2nd day.
Yeah, the 2nd day.
Right. So you have to put on and take off even 100 times. So
We're talking about
Right.
the second day.
But really, people are going to keep coming in all the time.
Correct. So according to what the Gemara said, we haven't finished. We haven't come to the final conclusion. According to what we said now, according to the Gemara's answer now, according to Ula himself,
Right.
it's a very split decision. It's as follows: on the second day, you start putting on tefillin like Rabbi Yeshua.
Right.
But if someone new comes in,
Right.
you have to take them off.
Right.
And this has to be talking about the second day because Ula himself says that you ain't no chole. So if Ula says you put on and take off 100 times, when could be possibly the only time this could be? The second day. So according to Ula, on the second day you start putting on tefillin, or someone comes in, you have to take off the tefillin, put them on, take them off, put them on.
Right.
On the third day, you no longer have to take them off.
At all. Right.
Okay, do we follow that? No. Okay, so we have to read 2 more lines.
So this business of taking off the tefillin. So when the Ponim Chadashas come into the room, you're sitting there with your tefillin on.
You tell
they
them
see you with the tefillin on.
quickly, you unwrap
and
them.
Huh?
You take them off quickly. Keep them outside. I don't know what to
That's a
say.
good question.
I don't know.
Like they've seen you on
The whole point of taking them off is that you should
I know, it's a charade. It looks like a charade. Correct. I don't know. Maybe people, they're in a tent. They're in a tent and they call them and say, someone's new coming, take your tefillin off. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Maybe tefillin were wrapped differently. It had an express way to wrap them. But by the way, halachically, b'di'eved, if you didn't wrap the whole tefillin, as long as you tied it up here,
You're okay.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's come to the final halacha because this is not practical completely yet. So Ula says you got a split decision, and on the second day you'd have to take off your tefillin even 100 times. That's fairly radical. Tanya nami hachi, and we even have a brisa that supports this. Tanya nami hachi. Tashma is about Ula himself. But now Tanya is a strong proof because it's a brisa. Ula is an Amora. And Ula was passing for the Tanaim of Rabbi Shimon Rav Eliezer. Tanya nami hachi Yehuda ben Tema Omer. Yehuda ben Tema was very famous al Tana. Right? Have a Azkanomer beginning of 4th paragraph in Pirkei Avos. So Omer Chole tzemaniach afilo mea pa'amim. And he's talking about once again the second day. However, fortunately, Rav Omar came and shehiniach shuv ena choleitz. Comes along Rava, who is much later, and says that once you put them on, that you never take them off.
So even though there were 2 people who said they should,
Right.
Rava's saying no.
Rava says no. Correct. And let's see, we have a question.
A simple question. Why can't you just have some, instead of taking them off, just have one, new guy comes in, hey, listen, I don't want you to make a mistake.
Right.
This is what it is.
This is the third day.
Tell them what it is. What do you think?
Full disclosure.
Tell them what
Put
it
a
is.
sign
That's
up.
all.
Put a sign up.
Put a sign up.
Okay.
This is the third day.
Okay, you're right. Put a sign up.
Come on,
Like, you know,
come on. Watch the guy. Just
Yesterday was the second day of Sfiras Omer. Yesterday was. Yes, I don't know. The answer is Shiva was a little different in those days. I mentioned, and we'll see it, that the Gemara talks about. We're not going to get a chance to do it now, but the Gemara talks about the Avel. If he goes to another Shiva, where does he sit? So the Mishnah on the Talmud Bavli is going to talk. He's paying a shiva when he's sitting shiva. So we don't do that. We don't do that.
If you don't
We
leave
don't.
the house.
If you don't leave the house, but I'm saying this is another. There's another shiva. It might be a shiva that actually he's also involved in. So there are 2 families. One part of the family which he's involved in sitting shiva here, and now another part here. So, but the key is he's going to the Gemara of the Mishnah. The Bryce will tell us he sits with the misnachamim, not with the minachamim. So, and the Rishonim explained that people used to sit down for long periods of time. You know, you come to a shiva house, the avelim and nebuch in different parts. You know where the avel is because people are sitting around them, but there's no real place of misnachamim and minachamim. It rotates during the day. But apparently it was very formalized. This was where they sat, this is where they sat, and people sat. They moved in. They stayed a long period of time. So here's an avel would get up and go to another house, and he would stay there for the day. For us, it's very different. Anyways, we got one line to do, okay? So the Gemara says, according to Rava, once you put on tefillin, you never take them off.
Right.
Now, what it looks like, right, is that that how long is Shiva therefore going to be? How long will Shiva be?
Still talking about 2 days or 1 day? We talk
one day. And once he gets to the second day, he puts on tefillin, and that's it.
Doesn't take him
So
up.
the Gemara has one question. Rava hu di Amar. Rava said on Daf Chafman Aleph. We learned this a number of weeks ago. This was about whether you needed 3 days before the other came. Halacha Kattan didan the Amar Shlosha. So it looks like Rava says really the Avelis is 3 days. Right? So in other words, you could argue maybe it's the third day is the day that is the third day, and that's the day you start putting on tefillin because you waited till sunrise, so you had 2 full days in the mix of Yom.